I wanted the tech to do the housework and the boring shit so I can do art and music.
So does AI drive down costs and allow me to undercut you even more?
Oh, that's interesting. So it's full of false promises.
The landlords in that area, they're about to really be squeezed.
Then really the human in there is a weakness, right?
And I think there'll be guys watching this at the minute that probably don't say a lot, but they ought to be listening and maybe contributing maybe into some of the stuff that you guys are doing at the minute.
Most things in life, there's a target I'm going to work towards, I'm going to achieve it. With kids, I haven't got a fucking clue.
Like Ben says, the trouble with parenting is you never fucking know.
Everyone goes through problems. But before you, someone else has had that problem. And in the future, somebody else is going to have that problem. It's not your problem. It's just a problem. You're experiencing it right now.
I think the greatest thing you could do for society today would be to ban social media for anyone under 16.
So good or bad recruitment can either scale or destroy your agency business. Are you wasting hours on CVs, bad interviews, and paying huge recruitment fees? If so, there's a smarter way. Inside Talent is the Netflix of estate agency recruitment. They hire, train, and retain all under your brand for one simple monthly fee. So, podcast listeners, you're going to love this. Look out and make sure you lock this down. It's 10% off their yearly subscription when you contact the team at Inside Talent and quote #Showdown. Now, you need to check them out, don't you? www.insidetalent.com. Inside Talent, smarter hiring made simple. Hi, it's Matt Giggs. This is Estate Agent Showdown. Welcome to this week's episode. I am absolutely honoured to be joined by the King and the Prince of London.
Like that.
Who's going to be the Prince?
As long as it's not
Who's
an
the
arm
prince?
wrestle, I'm fine.
Who's a couple of queens?
A couple of queens from London are joining me today. We have the amazing Ben Madden, who's supporting a shiner today. Now, that happened just before we got on camera, so good work there, Kristjan. And Kristjan Byfield. So, welcome to the show, gents. How you doing? You all good?
Yeah, good, man. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're going to dive straight in. This show is about having some debates and different perspectives. And obviously, the big challenge for me today is to see how the hell can I get you two to actually disagree on anything.
Yeah, or shut up, I think. So.
Oh, God, it's the shut up. Well, let's start with...
The 6-hour podcast begins.
Yeah, by the way, Ryan, we're on for quite some time on this one.
You're about to get a year's
pre-warn.
content in 60 minutes. Let's go.
Well, look, I want to ask you, because you've both got lettings background. You're still heavily in your lettings business. You've got the depository, and you know it's a massive area of what you focus on. Ben, your background, you've sold a lettings business as well. But is the lettings business per se under serious threat in the current climate? Or are we just seeing a more natural sort of evolution of it, would you say?
I don't think there's any such thing as the end of the rental process unless you've suddenly got a way to put everyone in rentals into a home buying position. No. Look, there's lots of changes coming. It's an evolution. It's the ongoing professionalisation of lettings, both from an agency perspective, but also from a landlord and PRS sector perspective. I think generally, from an agency perspective, everything that happening is fundamentally good for agents.
Okay.
If you look at the fact that only 50% of landlords use a letting agent and only 36% of the PRS is managed by an agent.
Right.
So 64% of all properties is self-managed by landlords. And when you also consider your typical landlord is 1 to 2 properties.
So there's plenty of growth there.
There's plenty of growth for agency to have there. And when you look at the legislative burden that now sits on a private landlord, to understand all of that to manage 1 or 2 properties, it's getting to a point where there's no value. The risk doesn't offset the reward. And that's great. You know, you look at what agents do. You and I have talked about this. I mean, like when I started in lettings as a landlord, you were lucky if you got anything more than a slightly dogged signed tenancy agreement, a gas safety, and if you're really lucky, an inventory report. You know, and then when you look at now the standard of service that most letting agents deliver, but layered on top of that, all the compliance they do, and fundamentally we're still on the same percentage fee model. Nothing there has fundamentally changed. The value landlords get now compared to 20 years ago is night and day. So, logic will dictate that more and more properties will come into the sector. We'll see the profile of landlords change. There'll always be that accidental landlord. There'll always be a handful of landlords with one or two properties. But I think over the next 5 to 10 years, you'll see that shift from that being the norm to more and more portfolio landlords. And I'm not talking like mega portfolios like 200 or your Blackstones and Lloyds looking to get 50,000 units, but you'll see landlords looking to spread their risk. And
still the best investment.
Yeah, it's a solid, safe investment, and there's lots of our landlords we talk to. They like being a landlord. They like providing housing to people. And it's not all about getting the maximum amount of rent. And, it's not about maximising it as an investment. A lot of them are in a privileged position that they don't need to worry about maximising their investment. But I think for a large part of the landlords we work with anyway, they feel they're delivering a social value in what they deliver. They deliver a quality property, a quality home for someone to live in.
What are your thoughts on that, Ben?
I think it's probably about 15 years ago. I remember sitting in a managers meeting at our old business and talking about what the evolution of lettings and the PRS looks like, or what we predicted it looked like. I remember making this really bold, sort of stereotypical, naive, early business owner statement that in 25 years can look very, very different, because build to rent was there were sort of offshoots maybe 15 years ago. I think that feels about right time-wise. The build to rent was a thing, and it felt like it was coming, and it felt like successive governments that operated under different colours were following the same hymn sheet on build to rent, which, if you consider housing...
Just for anyone watching though, Ben, build to rent, can you just... Because a lot of people outside of lettings perhaps aren't as aware of the background of that.
And just to be clear, I'm out of lettings, have been for a few years, and build to rent was never anything we actually broke into in our old business. But it's large scale housing developed. I think genuinely fit for purpose housing.
Yeah,
it's designed with renters in mind, as opposed to existing housing stock converted into lettings properties. I think it's institutional investment a lot of the time, but I may be corrected by Kristjan on that. And I think why it's really interesting. And so I can give you a case study where, and this may have been 10 years ago, where we were asked to help with some pricing, and quite often a large letting agent or a reasonable letting agent will be called in to help a developer set pricing and give some feedback on schemes. And we were asked to give some feedback on a development of 1,200 units in a reasonably small town. And we gave some feedback on pricing, looked great, looked brilliant, all the bells and whistles. But we also had to give a caveat that whilst this looks wonderful, you have to consider, we think you should consider the impact you're about to have on every other landlord that operates in this reasonably small town right now. You are about to blow the house they're offering out of the water. You're going to set the price point so that you're a little bit more expensive, but everything you get, you look like extraordinary value. And, you live and you learn. We didn't win any business from being that honest and that transparent. But the facts remain that they were going to release 1,200 units in the space of something like 18 months, which is insane.
Huge. In a small town, that's mad.
And this small sort of working class town that had reasonable links into London, very diverse community, that the landlords in that area, they were about to really be squeezed and no longer experience anywhere near the same level of demand. So build to rent, I think, is interesting, and I do think that there's a lot of that in our future as a sector. But as I say, I've been out of lettings for a few years, so my finger is not completely on the pulse. The other thing I find interesting, to Kristjan's point, is twofold. There's so much more that needs to be done nowadays to stay compliant.
The regularisation.
Because I sell my business, I can't work in lettings.
So it's
in
not a
couple of
choice then?
years. In a couple of years I'll be able to, and I can assure you in a couple of years I won't be going back into lettings.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about sales versus lettings in a bit. But anyway.
Yeah, and I'm happy to talk about that. But so from a lettings perspective, I think it is mildly terrifying just how much is involved and the risk good landlords are exposed to. It feels like we've gone off a cliff edge here. We're a bit too extreme. We're penalising people for the sake of penalising them when they've made, simple mistakes. That's not me saying we shouldn't consider safety and doing right by occupants. But I think there's a lot of risk. And Kristjan's point, maybe tech is going to support the agents in handling that risk. So my question would be maybe, who's going to develop that piece of tech for landlords to use directly? Because there's huge opportunity there. And as people that work in the sector, we don't necessarily want to see that piece of kit.
No.
But that piece of kit represents a huge opportunity. If more than 60% of landlords are not being managed by an agent, they want to do it themselves, there's a huge market opportunity there. And then the final piece you asked Kristjan about was whether it's still a good investment. And I wonder, and I don't have any evidence really to support this other than maybe what I see on social media because I don't interact with that many 20-year-olds anymore. What do they see as a great investment nowadays? Do they consider
the generations changed, shifted massively, and there's a lot of people just looking at renting as the future as well as themselves personally, as opposed to investing but owning their own home. Yeah, which I find really interesting. The reason I asked that question is the regularisation, which can offer an opportunity and a threat. Taxation. I mean, 8-9 years ago, this all started to really kick off.
Yeah, Section 24 is not great.
Landlords are exiting the market. I know we touched on that a little bit off camera. Open rents. So there's a lot of things for the majority of the letting agents to really consider. Yeah, but I suppose, is it just a point of perspective?
Look, I think there's always opportunity, right? It's just understanding what that opportunity is, and I think. Any market where you have a lot of different things going on, I always see as quite a sign of quite a healthy market. So yeah, look, how it plays out, no one knows. I mean, there's this AI cloud that is hovering over pretty much every aspect of our lives right now.
It does feel like a cloud.
And the great unknown of what that means in 5 to 10 years' time.
Do you think it's innovation or evaporation? What's your thoughts with AI in this particular sector?
God, I mean, I think it's quite exciting from a tech and operational perspective. From a societal perspective, I think the governments worldwide have got a lot of figuring out to do in the next 5 to 10 years.
Got hands full already, though, aren't they, at the minute?
Yeah, but I think if they're not careful, they're going to wake up one morning and all of a sudden unemployment figures are going to treble, and then and they're not going to know what to do with it. So they've got to start figuring that out. And I think it's got to be conversations around universal income. They've got to be looking at how they tax AI and the tech overlords.
Stop talking about AI is not going to change the employment market. Developments in technology create opportunities. Of course, they create some opportunities, but what we're talking about right now is just wholesale administrative, mundane tasks.
It's our generation's industrial revolution.
Yeah.
I've been saying it for about 2 years now. Yeah. It is categorically our generation's industrial revolution. And when we look back in 5 and again 10, that's always the magic number, isn't it? Yeah. Less happens in 5 years than everyone expects, but more in 10. So that 5 to 10, we're kind of 2 years in from where AI really kind of started getting a proper buzz and people starting to do exciting stuff with it. So, the next 3 years, you're going to start to see that needle shift. And beyond that, it's going to be lightning. And yeah, like you said, I've had lots of conversations over the last 18 months, 2 years with people going, yeah, but we don't want to scare people. Like, is it going to change much? Yes, it absolutely is.
So that's saying I'd rather be hurt by the truth than kissed by a lie or something, isn't it? It's a bit.
Treat people like adults.
They're not stupid, are they?
We don't want to scare people. So
Charlie was saying on the last pod that I'd done, he was talking about, I can't remember what he said, Ryan, about the employment figures. I think we were talking, it's worse, or there's more job losses now than there was in the financial crash. can't remember exactly what he said, but Charlie's always one to shed a little bit of a ray of sunshine on the old.
It's going to be seismic. I genuinely think it's going to be a seismic shift.
It's going to be considerably more, isn't it?
Yeah.
In reality terms, because businesses are paying more to employ people, hire people, keep people, retain people. Those people still want more money, and there's a smaller margin than ever. Yet there's tech here that can do the job.
I keep on hearing the same thing. Businesses are going to be filled with less people, but earning considerably more money.
That's what I'm hearing.
So it's how you fairly tax those people now earning double or triple what they are now, how you tax the overlords, but also you've got to look at two sectors. You've got to look effectively. I don't really see how the governments are going to avoid conversations around a universal income. So there's that. But I think one of the things I've spoken about quite a bit, I don't know that I've spoken it much on camera actually, but we all know there are those entry-level grunt jobs, admin jobs, that aren't always necessarily the most exciting. They're not the most rewarding, and they're certainly not one of the best paid jobs. But that's where you cut your teeth. Mm-hmm. That's where you observe people doing the job. That's where you learn from your mistakes. That's where you learn from sitting next to people who've done it for 10, 15, 20 years, and you learn the nuances and you learn all that. If we strip all those jobs out,
which is what it's saying,
if we strip all those jobs out, how do we take someone out of uni? What do they do for that first 5 to 10 years out of university? But also, how do you take that person and bring them to a management leadership role if they're not getting hands-on experience? So there's so much to contemplate. So there, it is exciting, but there are big things to be thinking about. And my concern at the moment is our government isn't remotely thinking about the right things at the moment. So
I'm in agreement, which is not great for a debate.
Nah,
but
I think we've settled down with the fact that this is just going to be a really good show, really good chat. This is a good chat with a wobbly table.
So, what I will say around service in this country, generally, I don't mean just in our sector, it's not great right now. And the argument that lots are making is Brexit, not enough workforce, not enough people to deliver the quality service we expect. And that poor quality service, I think, is driven by a lack of demand for the roles. We'll just take what we can get. We'll have to, we'll take on John because there's no one else who wants the gig. John's bloody awful, but at least he's doing the job. It's a 4 out of 10. It's better than a 0 out of 10. Well, does AI start to solve some of that? Maybe. AI replaces some of the workforce that we need. Maybe it drives people into other positions and creates competition. I always come back to hospitality because I started life in hospitality. And we took it really, really seriously. We cared about our punters. We had a laugh with them. It was one of the best jobs I've ever had. But it was real service, and I think for young people, that's where you learn service. Nowadays, when I go into a pub, these kids are not learning service. No. They're learning to be rude and ignorant and not really care, and they don't know what tonic is. It's the second most important ingredient in gin and tonic.
Yeah. And also how many things you sit at a table and it's like scan the QR code.
I think
and all
being
that.
A waiter or a waitress is a great starting point in life.
These are the
skill
We've talked
bits.
about this. I think everyone should have a career in hospitality early on. Work in a good hospitality environment.
So we're sort of talking that there's a lot of roles that this could affect, for sure. I think we're all in agreement there. Can I ask you, though, that from an agent's perspective, because estate agencies changed, I think, quite a lot over the years in terms of,
for sure,
years ago, estate agents used to create, convert. Yep. Now they're just converting leads, generally speaking. And a lot of the creativity's done, a lot of the legwork's done. You certainly don't see enough agents speaking to people, calling people, following up people. If AI kind of takes that spot as well, what's left? So as businesses shrink, is it just going to be built around business owners as opposed to business teams?
Does the estate agency sector become travel agents? Quite. Is that what's happening? Because 15 years ago, forget how old I am. 25 years ago, I remember going with mum.
Stick with 15
to book a holiday. And you'd go to the high street and you'd go into the travel agent and they'd get the brochures out, and that was part of the fun. And it was, and like, I mean, looking back on it,
go and get the brochures, take
it home, show Dad where we're going, look at this.
Going for a chat.
And so
ours were just Skegness, but I don't know about you.
Listen to him. Listen to this guy. So tiny one. So I mean, look, I was from Mallorca, so it's not like we're off to Cuba, but that was part of the fun, and that was a significant sector. And now I wouldn't dream of booking a holiday like that, or a hotel, or flights, or anything like that, like most normal people, I think. And so there's some definite risk that we allow technology to remove all the quality. And I think the quality in this industry is the people, it is the experience.
So business owners are thinking now, like, is that quality there in those middle level roles? Is what I'm kind of looking at. It's kind of that mid range where people are earning 30 to 60 grand a year in an average estate agency, letting agency, and they're not actually delivering those quality touch points, and the tech will do it.
So there's a line that almost every agent uses, and I think it is both the greatest truth and the greatest lie, and that is people buy from people. Right? Whenever I talk to agents about tech, and more recently about AI, the natural, the instant kind of rebuttal to that is always, but people buy from people. I mean, it's kind of true, but really, people buy from people who deliver a good service. People buy from people they connect with, empathize with, and people that they like. And I think if we're honest, if we talk about our industry as an entirety, we don't have a great reputation.
And people
there's a reason for it. There's a reason for it. At least a third of our industry delivers a shit customer experience, delivers shit customer service. We hear those same stats at the conferences every year. For over a fucking decade,
how many leads?
We have been told that stat that 50% of leads don't get answered. Meanwhile, what is the biggest fucking complaint every estate agent in the country has? How much they pay portals.
Yeah.
Like, what the actual fuck?
Yeah.
Like, how do those two things match
Leads
up?
are a bit of an inconvenience to those people, aren't they? It does feel like that, though, doesn't it?
So this whole thing of people buy from people, yes, I think, fundamentally it's true, but you've got to be really honest with yourself about what is that human experience you're giving. And when we talk about, what do people look like within AI, I think for most estate agencies, you're going to have maybe three types of people within a business. You're going to have technologically minded people who hone and refine your tech features, product stack, whatever.
So almost like that's your marketing person, but for tech.
You're going to have your compliance person, who understands everything that's done, coming, and on its way. And then you've got your personality service people, your hospitality people, for want of a better phrase. And I think fundamentally you're going to have those three types of people. I mean, they could be one. But it will be just the touch points. And the first two really are under the bonnet, right? They're just really refining the tech. And then the hospitality, the personalities within the business, they're the ones that are going to be delivering that. We've been talking about what we think base looks like over the next 2, 3, 5 years. And I keep on talking more and more about the members of our team becoming just that person at the end of the phone that our owners and our residents can pick up a phone to, or WhatsApp, or however they want to communicate at any time about almost anything. And they'll be there to hold their hand. And
because I think our industry is always quite behind most industries when it comes to tech.
It's a slow moving ship.
It's a slow moving ship. So I think we'll be a bit further down the line when it comes to AI. I just get the feeling that we tend to onboard things a lot later than other sectors.
Well, I mean, it's fair. If you look at...
but are we? Are we that much slower than most other industries?
I wouldn't say you, but I would say...
No, but I mean, like... Also, I hear, we've been saying this a lot for 10, 15 years, that as an industry, we're not good at adopting tech compared to other industries. But what other industries are great at adopting tech? It's typically, right, a pioneer. Like, your Deliveroos or whatever, or your Ubers who totally kind of blow something up. But fundamentally, I mean, before Uber came along, taxis were taxis, right? And takeaways were takeaways.
Well, yeah, but so here's a good example. Social media as a marketing platform, wildly powerful, and agents are still, it seems quite a few, are reluctant to embrace it and engage with it. Not all.
Why do you think that is, though, Ben? What are the main reasons why that is? Because the stats speak for themselves, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, as you just said, or I said, and we both said, as an industry, we can be slow to turn. We, as an industry, I think, suffer a little bit from God syndrome. I know best. Don't tell me that wouldn't work in my town. There's a lot of that going around.
That's not how I did it.
Yeah,
There's a lot of that.
So there's a bit of that. There's also, and I'm wildly conscious that the three of us fall into this category, pale male stale. And so we've done it for years. And so, of course, we know. No, okay, you're right. You're not. I mean,
you're definitely not stale.
Oh, well, I'm glad you said stale. The tan's coming along.
I've been talking to my missus again.
But I think, generally speaking, there's a lot of, this has always worked. Why would I change it? You think about how long it took for a lot of businesses to come out of local press. And
if it ain't broke.
Well, but what isn't that one of the worst sentences in the English language?
What broke Blockbuster? It wasn't.
There's so much opportunity, but to be fair, so in that specific example of social media, if you've done things a certain way and you are not well versed in social media, it's like learning a new job. And so that's part of the problem, learning something new. We're all very, very busy. We don't have time. We're already, everyone's favourite word, how are you? It's not I'm good, I'm wonderful, it's I'm busy. Busy is the way we now describe our lives. So I think there's some of that becomes a real issue. It feels a bit gimmicky, maybe, until you've embraced it and you've used it and you've seen it.
Is it a bit too long a game for people, so they don't see the quick wins?
I think people are also quite scared of the instant reaction. It's very raw, right?
What,
whatever you produce, particularly if you're putting yourself in the lens, in the photo.
Something.
I think the number one thing I see within any groups that talk about this and encouraging and supporting people to do it, it's the fear.
Fear of being shamed.
What if people say this? What if people say that? There's fear that suddenly 1,000 trolls are going to appear out of nowhere.
Well, I've got one for you this morning, right? Client, we posted a piece of video for a client today, and we got an email back saying, lovely piece of video, but can you change that still image, please? On Instagram, you've got the video, but you have a still image. Yeah. And she's like, I look awful in that. And I'm like, no one cares. You're the only person that cares. But yes, we will change it for you. And you're absolutely right. So there is that. How do I look? How am I being perceived? Is there going to be some negativity? The fear of the unknown. I think it's Watkins that says negative comments are the best you can hope for because they spark the row. They engage. Yeah, exactly. They get some conversation going.
Is it because there's a lot of talk about personal brands, and you both run companies. What are your thoughts towards that? Do you think businesses have a fear that if they help people to build their personal brand, it's going to mean a big problem for them further down the line?
I don't see this as any different to training. Mm-hmm. It's that old adage, right? What if I train them and they leave? But what if you don't and they stay? Exactly the same thing with developing a private brand. What if I let them allow them to develop one and they leave? Yeah, but what if you don't and they stay? Where's the value? And what we've talked about, it's where agencies
a revelation
going,
of the mindset, isn't it? Really?
That brand personality is going to grow. What that person delivers in terms of whether they deliver an online marketing character that drives brilliant engagement for your business and leads, or whether they are someone interacting with your customer base and giving them those little wow moments. Increasingly, that's where the value is going to be. And if you refuse to accept that, you'll lose your good stuff. It's very simple. They will all go where they can develop that.
So they've got that freedom.
Last night we were in a group.
People go where companies are going to invest them. If you get stuck in the back corner, not being taught anything, not being learning anything, and all of a sudden someone goes, "Dude, come with us." Yeah. And within 2 years, this is what
stale, you're going to learn. Doesn't it? It goes stale. It gets boring. We're not trying the new. I'm not excited. I'm not engaged. We were in a group. Matt, you might be in the group as well. Ledbetter's marketing group last night, and someone who's a really good agent said, "I'm thinking of trying something." gave him some feedback on that, and then he said, I'm doing all these different marketing activities to generate leads, and like, fantastic list, doing really well, looks good. So because of my current thing, I looked at his social media and gave him some feedback. He's got a really great account, loads of followers, but really awful engagement until his face appears on the feed.
Right.
And it goes through the roof because it's personal, it's real, it's authentic. He's talking about himself. Richard Branson has 35 million followers.
Yeah.
Virgin Group has less than 2 million. People are interesting. Yeah. Companies are not. If you're not doing that, I mean, Kristjan's right that the future is, is people, it's stories, it's storytelling. It's so much more interesting.
And that's because that's going to humanize versus AI as well, for example.
Wow.
Or not.
This is, I mean, in this instance, I wish we could have a row about it, but we both feel the same way. I think there's some really good opportunity to have a good argument about this.
Should we pretend that you disagree?
Yeah, who's going to get the short straw and fight the AI corner? So I just don't. So this is something I don't like, and that's deep fakes or presenting online, presenting yourself online, but it's not really you. Full transparency, I looked at it for our own business a couple of years ago, and after I got really into it, realised that it's initially disingenuous.
It's quite exciting.
Well, it looks wildly efficient. I tell you right now, I can produce 2 pieces of content every day by just uploading scripts, and I can automate the scripts, and all of a sudden my content on my feed and
delivering it.
But in truth, it's a computer saying, "Hi, I'm Ben," which is a lie. Yeah. And so I'm not really. I like the real. I like the authentic. I use the word authentic all the time. I know it's a buzzword, but I try and be who I am all the time, and I think that's valuable in a world where online so many people are pretending to be something else.
Well, it's a bit like, I think you've seen people say, oh, I wasn't expecting tech to come along and do art and music and leave me doing the housework. I wanted the tech to do the housework and the boring shit so I can do art and music.
Creative stuff.
And I think in a similar vein, it's the same thing with business, right? Like we look particularly at our business lettings, and the more regulated it becomes, the more this becomes. It's processes. Yeah. It is those workflows
as well. Sales
with the branches off, with those extenuating circumstances. But fundamentally, it's a myriad of processes that are documented and followed. And the human in there. I've said this for years, long before we start talking about the topic of AI. But I've been saying for years, agents should look at those processes and look at what their staff do in that process and where their staff genuinely add value. Because if it's just they do it or they don't, so they either succeed or fail, there is no value add, then really the human in there is a weakness, right? Because all they can do is fuck up.
They're disrupting it. That's
the problem. So and tech fundamentally is more robust at doing that. No tech is flawless, but it is a lot more robust. But like we touched on, the nuance of personality, and coming back to what I was saying earlier about, people buy from people, that is going to be not just agencies, but any independent business, your people and the personality. And whether that is literally just kind of reality TV personality, or whether that is mind-blowing knowledge within whatever it is, anything from flower ranging,
whatever your thing is,
that's where the people are going to drive the value, and the software is going to do 90% of the transactional work, and so it should.
So you guys run very separate, different businesses. I think leadership's becoming more of a challenge for business owners. I think we've talked about this off camera, but the COVID situation maybe created a slightly different mentality about work. What are your thoughts on how you should manage business? Is it a high performance culture that people need to be aiming to achieve at the moment, or is it the cultural performance in terms of how you make the place feel, the environment, that kind of stuff? Which one would be the one that's more important in your eyes?
I think it depends on the business, the environment, what you want to achieve. It's about the people. So I mean, I think it can absolutely be a blend.
It's going to be the blend, isn't it? It's that ratio.
Yeah, and
it's hard
the
to
way
blend
you sit. I would say in our business, we're more culture.
So do you have?
We are way more culture.
Do you have KPIs?
No.
Targets?
No.
Yeah, we do. So, but I wouldn't say we're more high performance than high culture. I don't think the two are independent of each other.
Okay.
I think you can be all about the people and all about the environment and the fun and caring and making good decisions, but you can also point people towards this is what success looks like, and we expect collectively we want to be wildly successful. Where I've had some criticism in the past in our own team, not from our team but about our team, is that I say we're running a family business. Now the reason I call it a family business is because my business partner's name is Daniel Madden. He's not my brother. That's a fluke. But his wife
Is he
works...
really? I thought there was...
He's a brother from another mother.
Yeah, we're not related.
There's no relation.
Everyone assumes.
That's dicey.
And to look at us, you could see it maybe, yeah, sure.
I mean, he wishes.
I would take that. I thought I was about to get attacked.
Oh, I'm going to get a slap next time I see him.
No, that's good.
He's on next.
Yeah, he's like...
waiting for you in the car
he
park.
is like my ugly brother. And so...
Hey, I didn't say ugly, just hasn't got the guns.
Yeah, okay, ugly and no guns.
Bringing a knife fight to a gunfight.
So we all, everyone in our business, except one person, worked at the old business together. And so he married our head of administration. So now his wife works in the business. His sister also works in the business. My father-in-law works in the business. So it has a family feel about it. But
is that hard?
At times, got to be.
Well, so this is why I've had the criticism, because I say we run the business like a family business, and we are, and I'll die on the hill. Those guys are the real deal. They're as good as it gets, mainly because they care more than most. They go to war and they get...
main kind of like...
That's the driver.
That's the driver, care.
Yeah. Believe, care, try.
You can't teach care, can you?
No, I don't think you can. They care enough to do whatever it needs to be to get it done, and they will go above and beyond. People say, well, that's a high performance team versus a family team, and I say, well, you can it can be a family business as long as you're wildly honest with each other, and that's where lots I think fall down. So just because he's my father-in-law doesn't mean he gets an easy ride, and so for a period of time, initially getting used to that was challenging, but now everyone is treated the exact same way, and I think that's really, really important.
And how do you do that though?
By running it as a business. Okay. And it is a business, but it's a business that really cares and will do anything it needs to support you because you're a sister, you're a wife, you're whatever it is. But also Sarah, who is one of the members of the team who's not related to any of us, is cared for just as much as the other guys.
If they weren't all like close connections, would you run it exactly the same way, or would you?
When we had Thorgills and there were 60 of us, we ran it the same way.
Did you?
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty successful by the sounds of it.
It had its moments. Right. It was. I mean, to be fair, it was up and down. We overexpanded. We were a really good business, I would say, for the first 10 years, and then the overexpansion sort of stretched us a bit. Yeah. And so actually, we weren't as commercially strong a business as we could have been.
But that's a tale as old as time particularly in agency, I think, right? Because it's such a fluctuating industry as well. It's luck and timing.
Well, yeah, I mean, the particular thing that sort of shot us in the foot was that we expanded into a fifth location where we had zero presence, and it just stretched the business too far. We thought, with a little bit of ego, a little bit of arrogance, we've done really well with 4 locations. Let's just pick it up and put it over there. Yeah. And nobody knew us, and it didn't work. And actually, the environment was a lot more aggressive and unpleasant from an agency competition perspective. And so that stretched us. We made the very common mistake that you put your best people into the hardest opportunity instead of keeping them in the best opportunity. Where they're going to, And so then 2 other locations started to struggle.
You actually get more struggles than,
And so you've made that really common mistake. Learned from it, but so the last few years were okay. But so when I sold the business, this is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I've done some tough things, like we all have. Telling the team that I was selling was like I told them I'm going to be dead in 2 weeks. Yeah. The reaction, I've never experienced. Were they all completely shocked? Like it. The entire team went into shock. I think maybe 7 people burst into tears.
And you've created this culture like you've just described.
It was a family unit. We did everything
What was
together.
that like on the morning of you doing that?
So the morning of, I don't remember actually, it's honest, but I would imagine my thought process was, it's going to be fine. They're cool. Everything's okay. They care.
They'll understand.
This is the evolution of the business.
This
They'll
makes
be happy
complete
for
sense.
me.
Yeah, like everyone's going to be high-fiving me. And I told them, and I mean, I could tell you now, I didn't get a minute's sleep that night. No. I mean, the next, because I told them at sort of point of exchange, and 2 weeks later the completion is done. And that 2 weeks was hell, was awful. And I didn't see that coming at all.
At least you got
was it
to
hell?
do that.
Was it hell as in people just coming to you and going, "Why are you doing this?"
Because I think my interpretation was that they felt that I was abandoning them, and we built this amazing thing, and you're dumping us. You're just moving on, and I can completely see it. I can empathise with that position, of course. At that point, so also, as well as the people I've mentioned, my wife worked at the business and my sister worked at the business. So there were 7 people that were Maddens, if you like, plus another 30 or 40. And yeah, it was, but it proves that what we'd done up until the point of me selling, was build something that created a culture where people really cared.
Yeah. Imagine if they said, "Oh, thank fuck for that."
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Or,
do you know what I mean?
Like,
there was no real win.
Oh,
there,
I thought you were going to tell us something big
in that sort of news. But that was obviously quite a big challenge. And so you run your business very much on culture. You said earlier on. What does that look like? If someone was to kind of transfer themselves into your office for the day,
look,
what would it look like?
One of the guiding principles, right or wrong, that Anne and I built based on, aside from what we wanted to deliver for customers, was we said we wanted to build the business we wish we'd worked for, which was that blend of culture, acceptability, and fun.
So they're your values.
And could we have built a more successful business, a bigger business? 100%. Would we have enjoyed it? I don't know. I don't think so.
Do you ever get tempted when you kind of go, we've got to this point and challenges of running a business are what they are?
You know what?
Do we turn it up a notch? Do we put some KPIs in? Do we do some incentives?
No, I mean, I don't know. There's so much of that never sat right with me. Like I've never agreed with viewing targets.
Okay.
Like, I've never agreed with. I get it with absolute cutting your teeth, bums in seats people. Like start with the grunt work and then figure out what your methodology is. But I've never agreed with that. 5 viewings a day, 40 viewings a week equals 8 offers.
There's that saying though, isn't there? If you can't manage what you can't measure or something along those lines.
Yeah,
do you find that actually we manage the environment, and actually the environment is the thing that we measure? You get a feeling of where you are, and everyone's together on that mission. And
look, I think it's also that thing of success looks different to everyone.
I think so,
and that's the other thing. Like Anne and I are quite similar in the. Do we want to be financially secure? Absolutely. But am I motivated by wanting to have a yacht or 3 Porsches in a garage or a footballer's mansion? Absolutely not. That is not a comment on anyone who is motivated by that.
No.
Each their own. If that is what puts a smile on your face and gets you bouncing out of bed in the morning, fucking brilliant. Yeah. It's not what motivates me.
I had a couple of guests on the other week, and one guy's built this business fast, and building a business fast has its challenges, as you can probably imagine. It's growth, performance, KPIs.
Jamie.
Yes. And then you got Adam. Mm-hmm. He's just like sat back.
It's quite laid back.
It's creative. It's marketing. And Jamie was like, but what about? And Adam's like, it just doesn't work for me, And I think that's the distinction that I get, that you can't take someone to a place they just don't want to go to.
No.
And actually, if you find the right place for someone to go to, they'll get there faster, and you help them with the things that matter to them. And it's the same with the people that are around you and your team. They've all got different reasons why they're working there, or they're doing the job and everything else. And I think that's the great skill that leaders have to try and pick up today, as to how to get the best out of the individuals as opposed to the collective.
Yeah, and there's a lot of hype out there. There's a lot of small businesses like ours that could be bigger, more successful businesses in a revenue, from a revenue and location and headcount perspective.
But what is success?
But there are also businesses out there that on the surface look very successful. They're growing at X rate and blah, blah, blah. But have a look at their company's house accounts and the story is very bloody different. And, they are praying that they get to that exit point because that's the only point that business makes sense is at an exit. And I think that's the other thing in our industry. You get battered. 1.5 to 2 times is kind of the kind of cap. No wonder you see so many of us trying to get into tech.
Yeah. But that's kind of circling back to the start about the lettings business and the threats and is it under... But is the sales business is there more of an opportunity now to build a more valuable sales business, Ben? Like, in terms of, there's agents that are working the self-employed model maybe, and they're paying a reoccurring revenue every month. I don't know. But what are your thoughts on that?
We've always believed in high quality service because we're going to charge a premium fee. Yeah. And so I don't think. I mean, it's a short road to failure if you're going to try and charge a premium fee and not deliver on it. So, getting the service piece right, which I know, even just saying it out loud sounds a bit naff, but I think it's really important. And because we're London agents, I think we'll have an appreciation. So lots of people listening or watching this might not. That your average agent in London is fueling the stereotype. You might say there's a lot of financially driven agents in London, very cutthroat,
commission hungry,
can be unpleasant. And to be clear, I'm not saying my team aren't. I'm not
big
saying
money to be made.
Yeah, my team and I am commercially motivated. So it's not that we're doing this to run a charity, but we are I think high touch point, high fee business. There's an opportunity for every agent all over the land to be the exact same if they choose to be. I don't think you need tech to be that, to do that. There are loads more options now to do that. Our sales offering, we have 4 different services we offer to our clients, and one of them, which is the all singing, all dancing, includes things like staging and styling. It includes a gazelle lock-in agreement. It includes pre-conveyancing, where solicitors are instructed before going to market, and we pay those costs all in our service offering because it's a premium priced service. So, we needed those products to be available, but anyone across the country could do that tomorrow. They could just rip off what we're doing. They could use it. They could achieve a higher fee. The return on investment on offering that to your client is very significant. My question, actually, we move straight past AI. My question around AI and what that does to fees is, this is an industry that I guess over the last 20 years has seen fees reduce. Not everyone, but
I don't think London has.
So, all right, let's talk about. All right, let's just quickly into London. Why are fees higher in London, do you think?
I think because massive generalisation, but I think people who live in London typically earn more money and therefore value their time more.
I was going to say their time poor.
So they will look at it and go...
They want someone to do the job.
That's my perception. They value their time.
Can I tell you mine?
Yeah.
A third of all agents in the UK are based inside the M25. So the competition is savage. Right. It's rife.
It is a mental statistic, though.
2/3 of all properties that are listed for sale in London don't sell. You've got a 3-part house on the market in London, only one of us is selling. Yeah. So 2 are promised the world and it's never delivered upon. Those 2 that are promised the world are completely misguided on the price of their home. The overvaluing, whether it's intentional, because there are so many corporates in London who are...
We had this earlier. We were talking about this earlier.
So many corporates in London are incentivising people to bring listings on.
Stats around that
well, I bet. But it's, and whilst, I might not agree with Charlie on a lot of things, this is legit, that we are completely misguiding.
He says don't talk price, talk process.
Well,
I think that's an oversimplification. Yeah, I think expecting people to
not want to know the price.
Yeah, which is wild.
There are more important things than the price, but
it's an important piece.
Most people need to know.
He says as soon as you go into price, that's when the overpricing...
Well,
I think it's naive to think that you could do that with every client.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
there are some clients, and I think your conversation should start on the how, the why. But really?
And your average London consumer, they're pretty direct.
I think that's an oversimplification.
They're going to
just imagine sitting down with you, Ben, and your missus, and saying, right, I'm not going to value your house, I'm not going to give you any price today. I'm just going to tell you how we get there. Mm-hmm. What would you say?
The problem you got with that. So first,
he was very articulate. To be fair.
Yeah, and if you articulate it beautifully, and you've got so much credibility in the area, and you've got a million case studies, I'll give you the time of day on that.
Yeah.
Where the problem comes is, how do I search for an onwards if I don't know what my home's worth?
Yeah.
How do I get on with my life if I don't know what you're going to achieve for me?
Yeah.
So that's there are some problems around that.
Don't lead with it. Don't make it necessarily the centre of the conversation.
Well, I agree with his. So price is only achieved when you find the best buyer. So the process is, how do we find your best buyer? And then once we find the best buyer, this is where we...
Or best buyers.
Create the magic. Best buyers, absolutely, competing. But just sort of touching on the AI side, sorry, Ben, I think we all steered away a little bit. That.
So, does AI drive down fees? Sorry, let's finish London.
Yes. London.
We cavited into London.
Yes,
right.
London.
So London.
So I think it's because there's a greater perception of value.
I've sold my house. Yeah. You two are sitting on the market. You have agreed to pay a higher fee because agent over there has told you it's worth £50,000 more. And so I think that's how London agents get higher fees, because they promise the world.
Interesting. So since we stopped our sales business, the sales side of our business, kind of around COVID time, it was always kind of a sidearm. It generated.
I didn't even know you did that.
Yeah. So it generated about 10% of our revenue. But although that's quite a lot, the transactions were small because London fees are big. And for me, I was our sales department. Every single aspect of it, and I hated it. So we weren't big enough to have any.
Do you love lettings?
I love lettings.
Fucking hell.
Love lettings.
He's a particular breed.
But what I hated about sales as well, there's just too much outside of your control. The amount of times we run into problems with surveyors. And
you know your revenue, don't you? Yeah. You know where you stand.
And you've got to deal with other agents.
Yeah, and how many of our lets fall apart? We maybe have one offer a year not go through.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, our arrears over 21 years is something like 0.4%.
So that's interesting discussion around London, because my insights are outside of London, not inside. So it's good to hear that sort of stuff. But going back to the AI,
right? Yeah,
driving down fees. I've done a good job there in the end. I mean, I was the one that lost the way in the first place. But anyway,
you've lassoed us back in. I feel like
don't worry. We predicted this, didn't we? We did predict. We predicted this.
Waffle.
AI will edit this into the right order.
Get the syrup out.
What we've got to do is do a clip of where you're fucking arguing big time, and then stick that clip out there, and people
just completely fake news it.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Told you. How many times have I got to tell you this?
Yeah. So AI fees, driving them down.
So how many opportunities over the last 10 years with technology, with culturally, with just agency creation has there been to drive up fees? A lot. If you wanted to, you could have put your fees up over the last 10 years. Over the last 20 years, however, if the data's correct, which Ron Burgundy, 40% of all stats are made up, or something like that. But if you believe what you're in the trade press, fees are on the way down. The average in this country is 1 to 1.25%. I think the last thing I saw was 1.1. What a random figure, by the way, that is. So when we get an opportunity to raise our fee or justify our valuation, we race to the bottom. It's the only industry in the world where there's a load of competition, and instead of offering a better service, we just reduce our fee. We're not trying to improve service, we're just trying to cut fees. It's a bit lazy. It's easier, I guess. So does AI drive down costs and allow me to undercut you even more?
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, there is that. I mean, I think one thing I was going to say, because you were saying, I think there is a common attribution, particularly in London, with we'll sell for more, so we'll charge you a higher fee. As I was going to go on and say, since we stopped our sales department 5 years ago, the agents we work with, and we don't have a preset agreement. I mean, I know enough of you buggers that, whenever we have a client come to us and go, look, it's time. I go on the market, I look for that particular type of property in that neighbourhood. Who are the best agents, and do I know any of them? And if I don't, I go, look, these are the 2 or 3 agents that seem to really deliver results for that type of property. Go and talk to them. And if I know them, which probably 98% of the time I do, I'll say, look, why don't we introduce you to X and Y? We can either handle the initial bit and we'll pass the valuation on, so it's completely like anonymous, or we just intro you up front and it's all you. Every single agent we've worked with for the last 5 years charges 2% plus VAT sole agency. And that is not related at all to the valuation. I convey that fee before I even introduce them, because it's not about that. And I think, but that's slightly different because we have clients that we have a 10 to 21 year relationship with, and we are aligned on those values of honesty, integrity and professionalism. And that's who we align them with. And it's value, not price. So, yes, there are agents who tie their fee into the price.
But you're recommending the best agent in the area.
Yeah.
And as someone that works in the sector, you're able to correctly assess which is the best agent.
Yeah.
Whereas your average consumer is not looking at the best, they're looking at the best known.
Yeah.
I recognise that brand, I've seen it for 20 years. Their success rate is 23%, but I see their boards more than anyone else's. And so there's a disconnect there, I think.
Huge opportunity though, isn't there? Like when you think about it, the corporate estate agents out there, if you're up against them, the data really doesn't lie, does it?
But look, also, London is a fascinating one. Let's talk about Foxtons. The agent that, at least back in the day, everyone used to love to hate as an agent.
They were a love to hate, weren't they? Yeah.
But damn, did that lot have balls going in and quoting 3% plus VAT at people. So guess what? When you walked in the door, I used to fucking love walking in after a Foxtons.
So did my guys.
Nothing make me happier than walking into a property and going, oh, have you spoken to any other agents? And they go, oh yeah, Foxtons just left. I'd be like, yes.
And what was your pitch?
Quality, service, detailed comparables establishing that value, and we would quote 2% plus VAT, which was 50%, a third less than Foxtons are going to charge you. And hey, guess what? We're only going to tie you in on a 4-week contract because that's all we need. We don't need 3 months.
3 months.
They were back then. They were quoting between 3 and 6 month lock-in agreements. Nothing made me happier than walking in after Foxtons, and also on lettings as well. They were quoting 17% plus VAT, plus 450 quid plus VAT for a tenancy agreement, plus 200 quid plus VAT to register a deposit. You'd go in, you calculate the figures beforehand. I'd go in and I'd talk to people and we'd quote 15% plus VAT and they'd be like, oh yeah, Foxtons have been here, they quoted 17. I'm like, yeah, it's not 17 though, is it? It's like more like 21 plus VAT when you factor in all this, which are non-negotiables. You have to have a tenancy agreement. You have to register a deposit. So, and look, that's no disrespect to Foxtons. Foxtons didn't give a shit about me. They cleaned up the market at the time. I wasn't a threat to them. But there was nothing I love more than going in after Foxtons. Because also, if Foxtons was the right agent for them, I categorically wasn't.
Yeah, it was the distinct difference.
I categorically wasn't the right agent for them. And that's cool. That's fine.
Do you think, like, when you look at, say, just on the subject of Foxtons, they seem to have had a resurgence over recent years.
Have you had any stats to back that up on the last podcast?
Do you know, it's an interesting one. I am only visually looking at maybe a revisit to a former culture.
I mean, that's a very dangerous word to use at the moment with Foxtons, with everything that came out at the moment. With the revelations of bullying and
I haven't seen anything.
Sexual misconduct and all sorts of stuff. And,
okay, they haven't changed then. But
again, I know some really lovely senior people at Foxtons. Like I said, it's not. I'm not.
That's not going to be
ever one to put a knife into any of them.
No, I genuinely was just about to pay a compliment. I don't know. I think there's definitely been a return to Foxton's core personality. Let's go with that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like I said, if John Hunt's line back in the day used to be, we go to war for our clients. Yeah. My reaction when I used to hear that was, what fucking agent needs to go to war to sell or let a property? But that was their niche. That kind of Wolf of Wall Street moves to Chiswick High Street. Let's talk. This leads us on to a really good subject, and you guys are very heavily involved in promoting sort of mental health awareness a young, around men. I was going to say young men, but our classes.
We're not young.
Our classes is young.
But I'm not sure if you spotted that. He said around young men and sort of gestured towards himself.
Yeah,
oldest man in the room.
Because the other day I discovered I was the eldest. But there's a lot of challenges out there, and that testosterone, that high-fueled kind of ego, kind of this is what. Is that one of the things that's really unsettling for people who are in our industry, which it is a performance industry still, because we do get paid on performance? There's a lot of pressure. There's probably a lot of pressure in a lot of businesses, not so much around results like there may be in yours, but guys are going through some tough times.
Look, I think there's kind of that. With the spreading of values and personalities, this society that we live in, which I 1 bajillion% embrace, which is, look, be who you are, love who you want to love, dress how you want to dress, be who you want to be, as long as it's not hurting someone.
Yeah.
And I don't mean offending, because offending is a personal thing. If you're offended, just fucking look the other way.
Yeah.
But as long as it's not hurting anyone, you be you. But I think with that broadening of that spectrum, there are you also get lost in that. And then so as a contrast to that, you've got this black and white, this almost return to kind of almost again like a kind of 1980s power vision.
Why do you think that
of
is?
What is man?
Why do you think that is?
Because a lot of young men are being raised by men who have no grasp of the society we live in today. They were raised. You and I had not a dissimilar talk around this topic, your family background, how the upbringing that your parents had. And again, you pass on what you know, right? You pass on what your life experience is. So
it's breaking that cycle.
Yeah, I think, look, it's if, like I said, with a broad spectrum, with less kind of, for want of a better phrase, categories, it then becomes harder to kind of be like, oh, I fit in with that crowd, or I'm this kind of person. I think as a counter reaction to that, you have that, oh, I don't know where I fit in, so you default to that monotype of man. And I think you've got a lot of young people like that, and that's why you've got the surgence of certain personalities in that space. But I think if you look around, there are some really interesting people. And again, you and I talked about this the other way. Daniel Keeper, really young guy within the fine and country business, doing fantastically. And I had a great chat with Joe Parry, who, and I hope I'm not throwing him under the bus having this conversation. I don't think I am, but he and I had a fascinating chat at Property Mark 1, because he said Daniel completely changed how he now thinks about recruitment. Because when he first met Daniel, and Daniel was like, this is where I see myself working, in the beautiful home market, the £1 million plus rural Wales and Gloucestershire kind of country estate kind of thing, as a 18-19-year-old. And Joe was like, he's tripping marbles. Like, he doesn't have the experience or the knowledge. And walking in and meeting Lord and Lady Fauntleroy of their estate, what are they going to think of some 18-year-old whippersnapper? And actually, he's shown what they think. And it comes back to what we've been talking about before, this whole thing about human engagement, personality. The superpower within our business is my business partner, Anne. I've never known anyone build relationships with people like she does.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first time I heard her speak at the Women in Estate Agency conference. And yeah, I was blown away by all the talks, to be honest, but she was particularly inspiring about her journey. But why are men not quite as open, do you think? And do you think that's a downfall?
What do you mean open?
I think when we talk, you've started this, they've got the group for men now, because Women in Estate Agencies kind of took off, and it's gone brilliantly well. I mean, the conferences you can't even call them a conference, really. They're very, very inspiring. And you think, what about the men? What about the guys? What's going on in their lives, their worlds at the minute? And perhaps are they less inclined to be more revealing or vulnerable about what they're going through in the moment? Just making me think about what we talked about that testosterone kind of high drive, high results, high performance business that Foxton's was, that kind of thing, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think, so Daniel, who you're talking about, do you know why he got the gig? He worked part-time for Joe. He was a Saturday boy. And Joe set up an incentive for his team around valuations. Daniel won it, working 5 hours a week on a Saturday. He won the entire competition.
Wow.
And I know all of Joe's team. We're in the same network. We're close with that group. They're very similar to our business. Good guys. They're all good at what they do. But it just proves to you that attitude wins every time.
Yeah, attitude and personality, right?
He wanted to do it. He decides he's going to go for it. He's going to try. He cares about achieving it. He's probably thinking, I can get a job here. Like, I can get the full-time gig if I prove I do this. So I love that. But in Daniel, and because we know him, I'm going to struggle to articulate this. Daniel's not an alpha male by any stretch. Doesn't come across in that way at all. Softly spoken. I would describe him as quite gentle. Very, very likable. Very charming.
Sounds like older than his years.
Definitely older than his years. Extraordinarily articulate. Without question, must be very intelligent. But I think it's the likable thing. And so when, so you mentioned about, so we're a product of our environment, right? And so we're raised by a particular set of parents, and those parents, however they were raised, you're going to get some of that. And so it's just it becomes generational. And so I came from quite a combative, tough household. And so some of that has found its way into my house with my girls, and you become conscious of it and aware of it. And I imagine Daniel was probably raised in a very different environment. In relation to sort of the traditional alpha, I think it's really interesting what's happening with young men in particular at this moment in time. So all of us fall into the category, us three, that we were raised in a way that the next generation will not be.
Yep.
So our parents were probably stereotypical in their relationship. Quite often, mum was maybe a homemaker.
Yeah.
Dad was breadwinner.
Yeah.
Mum would take the burden of the emotions.
Yeah.
Dad would be the tough love. Now, we spoke about this just the other day. I got a text, an email from my daughter's school that one of them, has got a swimming gala on Tuesday next week, and then the following Tuesday, the other's got the sports day, and or Thursdays maybe. I'm at conferences on both days, and the guilt that I felt that my dad would have never experienced that. Yeah. There would never have been even a suggestion that he would come to. He didn't come to a single event because he was at work. He was a scaffolder.
I went to boarding school on the other side of the planet.
I'm kind of with you on this, and it's a battle that I've really had to take on over the years, because I've always been quite driven in my work, and then balancing that with having a family and those responsibilities, and that it's an interesting place for this generation that we're in, because we're very much in a place where the world's changed, not just a little bit, it's changed a lot.
The transition is very extreme.
And we've been brought up in another world. It's like another fucking world, another dimension.
It's exactly what it is.
And we're in this dimension now where the next world is even fucking more weird and different and challenging.
It's more challenging, but the key difference is, so I've got 3 daughters, so I don't necessarily experience... as a man and a dad, they'll never call themselves dads, or I can't imagine they ever would. They won't experience the same sort of guilt. Or let's say I had a son, to make this just an easier explanation. If I had a son, I don't think he'd experience the same guilt, because culturally, we're now at the point where society expects both parents to be present for everything. Yeah. And also, though, the flip side is, culturally, it's more accepted that traditionally, mum now goes to work. Yeah. Both parents are in work. Yeah. Both parents are showing up for everything. Both parents are being put under more pressure than they've ever been put under. The expectations are just through the roof. Yeah. I listened to Diary of a CEO yesterday. I'm not sure if you heard it. The new one is it's a debate around feminism, and it's really interesting because women are under more pressure now than they've ever been, because 40 years
To do
ago,
everything.
raise a family. Now it's raise a family, go to work, have a great career, by the way, be present for this, be present for that. And listen to it cycling home yesterday, I thought,
Take some
that's
time
really
out for
interesting.
but not too long. And come
Exactly.
back and
So at
smash
what
it
point
again.
do you ever do anything for yourself?
Yeah.
So you don't have that. And what's really interesting, I thought, that's funny, they framed it as feminism, but I would frame it as parenting now is actually, it's such a blend. Everyone is expected to do everything really well and be amazing, and you're not allowed to shout at your children anymore, which is wild, and you're being judged for doing things that a generation ago were perfectly acceptable. You're also being judged for using your phone, which, and I've judged people on this. You know, you take kids to the park, they're playing, and someone's on their phone, and I'm guilty of this.
Yeah.
When I'm in the park, I want to be in the park. I want to be playing with the kids. They normally want me to be a dinosaur or something, and I'm like, oh, please, there's other parents, don't make me do the dinosaur thing. But, so I want to be present, but I'll admit, I'm not always. Sometimes you get a call, something you got to do, right? In the past, I've been judgmental. When I come out of that and take a different view, my mum used to take us to the park and read a book.
Yeah.
Why is it that reading a book is cool, but reading the news on your phone is not?
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it, how we've become a society that's...
Worried about what other people think?
Wow, a bit judgmental as well, I think.
Both.
We took...
But just touching on that, though, you said that both roles... it feels like both roles are very tough.
Mm-hmm.
And how you manage that. Because it's... Then you've got a business to look after.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got a role or a career in a estate agency, which, let's be honest, folks at home, is fucking hard as well.
It's all encompassing, isn't it?
Right? So people are going around this fucking... It's like a cyclone of busyness and foreverness and just responsiveness and being all things to all people, especially the children as well, but still feel guilty at the same time.
I think in my household, we've kept a kind of slightly more traditional balance, for want of a better phrase. Like Hayley and I talk openly about our parenting throughout the journey, before and throughout. And there was a couple of points we talked about. There was something I read very early doors in like a dad's group, which has kind of stayed with me forever, and it's something that guides a lot of my thoughts around what you were just talking about, you know, what kids things you go to. And ultimately I try and go to, like I think most of us do, try and go to as many as I can. But I saw a fascinating thing, which was this guy who had built an incredibly successful business, and he was like, you know, started the business shortly before I had the kids, worked my absolute arse off building this business to give our family this amazing life. And he was like, sold the business when my youngest turned 16, and he was like, basically turned up and was like, hi guys, and they were like, who
they're like,
genuinely,
see you later.
who the fuck are you? You're a guy
I don't know who you are.
You were a grumpy guy we saw on the weekend who paid the bills and took us on amazing holidays. But they have no relationship. He had no real relationship with them. Plus, at 16, 17, 18, guess what? They don't want to hang out at home with dad. So he was like, look, that first 7 to 10 years, you don't get that back. The fact that you are everything in your child's eyes for that first 7 to 10 years, focus on that. And then as they get older, you can kind of let them go, and then that gives you more scope. And Hayley and I also had a very clear chat. You know, when she got pregnant with Elvie, she was like, look, I want to be, whilst I've got the opportunity to be, as much as I can, I want to be a hands-on mum until the kids are both at school. Well, at that time it was only one, but until our children are at school, as much as possible, I want to be a hands-on parent. And that is exactly what she is. So she does a part-time job. She does a part-time job. She runs a charitable arts venue down in South London. And that gives her, you know, a moderate income, and that gives her something to keep the brain ticking over and involved in the arts that she's massively passionate about. But categorically, she loves being a parent. You know, and we've got just over another year. Arlo will start school not this September but next September, you know, and we know that kind of draws a line in the sand, and then it's time for her to have a bit of a rethink about what the career looks like. But that was very much our conscious decision, but it was always with the caveat of, as long as we can make it work, because
It has to.
there is a lot of financial burden.
I was going to say,
there's a lot of financial pressure.
The pressure does shift. I mean, we had a traditional sort of, Mel's just really got back into work in the last year, 18 months. And it's great, actually. It's like she's got a freshness to her career. She's done all the coaching qualifications. It's like, wow. And I've done growing the business for 13 years. And it feels like I need the break now. Do you know what I mean? Where you get to that point where you're like, whew, you know.
You want to pass the baton a bit.
And pass the baton a bit. But, you know, being a dad is a privilege, right?
Absolutely.
And it's sometimes a mixture of privilege and pressure. And I think there'll be guys watching this at the minute that probably don't say a lot, but they ought to be listening and maybe contributing maybe into some of the stuff that you guys are doing at the minute. Do you want to just touch on that a little bit?
Last week, what did we say? What I said is parenting is the most conflicting thing you'll ever do.
Yeah.
Where it's so
Constant.
back and forth. It's relentless, and it's it's a privilege. It's the most amazing job you'll ever have, and at times it's the job that, you know, leads you to dark places because it's so fucking hard.
Yeah.
And I think goal orientated people, which even if you don't set targets and KPIs, you know what you want to achieve in life and you know where you want to go to.
Yeah.
Most things in life, there's a target, I'm going to work towards it, I'm going to achieve it. With kids, this is, you know, what I found is I haven't got a fucking clue.
Good luck.
I think I'm on the right path, and I'm like, this
luck.
is so good. We had such a great weekend together. You know, for instance, one of them, I don't know, making a scenario up. She's been acting up. We've spent a weekend together. I've recalibrated. We're good to go. She's gonna have a great week at school. On Wednesday, she's burnt down the school. It's just like, fuck. What do I know? I think I know. And so, you know, it's that, you know. I like to have a target because I like to know the destination. With the girls, the destination is happy, safe, fulfilled. Fuck, when do I know if I got there? How do I know?
That's it, right? We were saying, like, in business...
You can't even measure it.
You've got the financial results of your business, but also whether you're, you know, when you're building a business, you don't have that. Fundamentally, you still know when you head home at the end of the day whether you've put in your fair share of work that day, whether you've had a good day or not. Yeah. You know? And like Ben says, the trouble with parenting is you never fucking know. Have I done great? Have I done bad?
Oh my God.
Should I have been there? Should I have not been there? But
it just feels like everything's like, I think from where I talk to a lot of people, because like you say, parent, I mean, my eldest is 14, my second daughter's 12 and Jude's 9. So I've got 3 as well. And I'd say the boy is a little bit more straightforward, if I'm being brutally honest, in terms of you kind of know if he's in a mood or not. But it's all encompassing, and I think what I like about what you guys talk about is you put it out there that we're all going through the same sort of stuff, and actually I think guys perhaps need to listen, or certainly commenting on that and maybe share it. Less likely, right?
It's hard. Sorry, you asked me a question. I didn't answer it.
No, that's okay.
The question you asked to talk about it, you've just led me to something that I heard this line once, and I've said it a load of times, and I don't claim that it's mine. But everyone goes through problems. But before you, someone else has had that problem, and in the future, somebody else is going to have that problem. It's not your problem; it's just a problem. You're experiencing it right now, and that's exactly what parenting is. That's exactly what business ownership is. That's exactly what being a man in 2025 is. It's fucking weird out there, and it's also exactly what being a woman is in 2025. It's weird for everyone. It's tough for everyone. Yeah. The difference, the categorical difference, is women are just more inclined to talk about it, and as you mentioned, be vulnerable.
Better communicators,
yes.
At least on the soft stuff, on the emotional, you know, and they have always been. And I think with guys, I think most of the guys I took, you know, we've talked about the group, you know, like you said, getting comments, getting engagement, getting posts, it's difficult. I've also had many conversations at conferences with guys who've taken us aside, and they've said, do you know what? Part of me would really like to talk about this in the group, but I'm terrified what people will think.
Wow.
Primarily within the professional circle.
Right.
What will my bosses think? What will my clients think? Or this?
Yeah.
And some of these people are even people they've been there, they've done it. Who gives a fuck what anyone thinks, dude? You've got money in the bank, you've got awards coming out your armpits, and you've exited 3 businesses. Like, who gives a shit? But that is the fragility of the human psyche. I'd say the male psyche, but I think and that's why Ben and I've been touching on the boys' club. Facebook was just. Social media is a logical and easy way to start something like that. But in many ways, it is also the antithesis because it is a documented record.
Yeah.
And that's why we keep on coming back to this evolution that will happen of in-person meetups.
Yeah.
And I think the reality is that will be a myriad of things from... like you put in the poll the other day, from bonkers things like whitewater rafting and doing the 3 Peaks challenge, to just meeting up with your dogs in the park and having a couple of beers, And I think...
But going back to like the 90s, I'm not sure you two were hanging out in the 90s like I was, but...
Well, based on you being so much older than us, obviously not. But
I mean, if we're talking the back end of the 90s...
Yeah, I mean, that was when it was just getting excited to have a bit of fun.
I was allowed to drink at the back end of the
90s. School. See, I lost my brother in the 90s, the mid-90s, and
that's a good way to stop us
No,
laughing.
No, wow.
Fucking drop bomb that one.
There's a clip there.
Read the room.
But it's still one of my best decades. As in, I was around people, I socialised, living life. It was like you were in the 90s.
I had a conversation this morning with 2 girls that I work out of a bit. So when I say 2 girls, that sounds a bit strange. I go to a high performance, like a high intensity gym, and 2 women just competed at High Rocks World Champions, and they came 22nd in the world.
Whoa!
So these 2 are beasts. Anyway, so we're having a good chat afterwards. I like working out with them because like you get an amazing.
Is that
workout.
really how you got the black eye?
And it could be.
It is, isn't it?
We were talking. So the 2 girls, they're not from the UK. They live in the UK now. And they were talking about dating and it being a weird world out there. And, a first date now is not what... Well, us 3, you think of a first date, you go out for dinner or maybe you go out for a drink. And now it's, I can remember picking my first date up from her home in the car. And that's not a thing anymore.
I've never been on a dating app.
No, neither.
Same.
I can't say I feel like I've...
When I met my wife, she was on the dating app, and I said, "What's a dating app?" I didn't have a clue what she goes. Oh no. But
the thing I said to these girls was, what you've missed out on is 20 years ago. It's pretty cool living in London. 20 years ago, we had loads of fun.
Yeah.
Bit of a drinking culture, but it was a positive drinking culture, and it was but nowadays
your drinking culture was obviously a lot healthier than mine.
I'm trying to keep it clean, chaps. But it was fun 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Whereas
that's
now,
the word.
Not
fun.
so much, right?
I think that's why the conferences are quite popular. Not so much for the content. I think it's maybe for the socials.
I think
I think the industry's got a good little. There's got some good networks going. And my observations are there's some genuinely great relationships because people are going through similar stuff. And I think from a guy's perspective, what we're talking about, we're not going to be the only 3 that are in that space. But the fun stuff is over conversations. In fact, I used to do some of the best training with my guys in the pub after work, talking through offers, talking through situations. And it was just that, it was just brilliant times. And I feel people are missing out on some of that.
I think the greatest thing you could do for society today would be to ban social media for anyone under 16. Or maybe even 18.
Well, they've done it in some countries, haven't they?
Well, Denmark have done it recently, haven't they?
And New Zealand, I think.
Yeah.
But...
Oh, my God, yeah.
It is the ability to make mistakes and for them to be forgotten. Epic mistakes. Epic, stupid, fucking mistakes that you make as a teenager. That shit that falls out of your face after 8 pints or, whatever it is. Those stupid things you say or do to impress that circle of friends you're in at that time, or you just think it's something funny. I went to a really posh, privileged boarding school and surrounded by insane privilege. And some of the naive and downright fucking stupid things that fell out of my face at an all-boys boarding school. If that shit was on social media today,
he'd be crucified.
I categorically would not have a fucking career.
I think we all can share that. I think,
and I think bring it back to this whole youth, and again, less men and women, just youth. there is this seriousness with young people now. And I think that's part of it, because there isn't...
The world is the paparazzi.
But I think there is also a kickback to that.
Everything.
I mean, like, when I look at my niece's generation who's 25, like, don't get me wrong, they love their social media, but it also increasingly plays a very specific role. Like, my niece does, like, amazing nail art. She runs her nail art business on TikTok and Insta.
That makes
but
sense, though.
Fundamentally, that is 98% of what she uses social media for. When she goes to festivals with her mates, when she catches up,
Phones off.
there are no photos. It doesn't get documented on social media, and that is kind of the swing back. And good. I'm glad to hear it, because God, people just need to have fun and have laughs.
I think fun is like missing.
Make mistake and
Fun feels like, and I'd say it's missing a little bit in work environments as well. Yeah. I think one's kind of rubbing off on the other. Maybe look, I think it's difficult because, like you said, everyone's fucking full up at the minute, and there are networks. I'm going to point you guys towards the group that you guys have got set up as well on Facebook. But I think the magic will probably happen outside of that with some certain events that we put on, or you put on, and I'll certainly come along to as well. So we got through a conversation, not much debating, but I didn't think we would anyway. To be honest,
not much of a showdown.
I know, but do you know what? There were some really important subjects in there today, and I think my summary on the lettings is there is an opportunity to build a great lettings business today. AI will help business owners, but you've got to be careful.
Really careful.
Really careful.
Really careful.
And we talked about personal brands. We've talked about mental health. We've talked about a lot of subjects that are quite close to your hearts as well, which is brilliant. We haven't mentioned how Ben got a black eye, and it wasn't really from Kristjan. But you've been two brilliant guests. Talking about London was interesting for me as well, because actually I don't really know that market inside out, and I just got a nice, cool insight as to what it was like. Certainly 20 or 30 years ago as well. So I hope you've enjoyed being on the show.
Loved it.
It's been really great to have you on. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Make sure you download, subscribe, comment, like, send me a message of who you want on the show, and stay tuned. I'll see you soon. Thank you for this.